Steins Gate is one of the most unique time travel stories that I've seen in any medium, and there's no simple way to explain why. Having rewatched the series in preparation for its sequel, Steins Gate 0, I found myself deeply interested in the way time travel elements are interwoven within its narrative. While there are many videos analyzing the many strengths the series has, whether it be the thematic depth or strong personable characters, there aren't many on the show's structure itself. In this, I hope to give a better appreciation of what makes the story's structure so unique and how it affects the overarching message that Steins Gate is trying to convey. In popular media, we have to understand that there are two types of time travel in fiction. One where the show's timeline is mutable, and the second being where the show's timeline is immutable. In the first instance, you can travel back in time and change past events, thus altering the future. This is achieved because a mutable timeline adheres to the multiverse theory, where once an event is changed, the timeline diverges. A prime example of this being the film Back to the Future. However, in an immutable timeline, when you go back to change the past, the timeline is fixed, meaning that no matter what you do, certain events are predetermined to happen. You can see this in Harry Potter. But what does this relate to in the context of Steins Gate? Well, for the most part, stories that contain time travel always abide by one of these rules. However, if I were to ask which category Steins Gate falls into, I would think that most people would say the first one. It's pretty clear that when Okabe sends a D-mail into the past, the timeline, or in this case world line, changes with it. What makes Steins Gate unique when compared to conventional time travel stories is that the show contains elements of both types. To help illustrate this, I made a time travel diagram following Okabe throughout the anime. From this diagram, you can see that every time a D-mail is sent, the world line diverges. But what exactly is a D-mail? Kurisu vaguely explains in the series that Okabe had accidentally found a method to send text messages through microwaves via Kerr black holes, thus receiving the messages in the past. D-mails are what you would call a tachyon communication device, essentially information traveling faster than the speed of light, making communication to the past possible. D-mails can only exist if the universe's timeline is mutable, because if it were to exist in an immutable one, it would cause a logical paradox. Therefore, we can group D-mails into the first category. Following the events of this series, Kurisu completes the time leap machine, and Okabe has the agonizing task of reliving the same 2 days, trying to stop the inevitability of Mayuri's death. What we can notice here is that no matter how many times Okabe loops back or makes different decisions, it seems as if Mayuri's death is destined to happen, a fixed point in time. I'll get into the implications of what this means later on, but for now we can safely group the time leap into the second category, being immutable. Now, the last method in which the series uses to change the past is physical time travel using a time machine. As you can see from the diagram, when Suzuha and Okabe use the time machine to travel back and prevent Kurisu's death, they go back in time within the same world line. However, the very act of Okabe trying to prevent Kurisu's death is the event which causes it in the first place. This is what you would call the Bootstrap Paradox, where the act of preventing an event from occurring is the one which causes it. This must mean that when using a time machine, the timeline is immutable. What we can understand from all this information is that in the universe of Steins Gate, a lot of the evidence points to their reality being deterministic. Characters will behave in a predictable way, and some fixed events in time that can't be changed no matter what you do. This raises the question, if everything has already been predetermined, can anything actually be changed? The logical answer to this dilemma would be no, that since the universe is deterministic, free will is just an illusion. While that may be true for our universe, that's not the case for Steins Gate, as we haven't accounted for one thing, Okabe's reading Steiner. With his ability, it grants Okabe the power to retain his memories after a divergence in world lines. This allows Okabe, the only character in the series, to essentially have free will.
In our timeline, we are prisoners of the present, forever transitioning from our past into our future. So we don't know of access to other points in our own timeline. Suppose you could move around in your timeline with the same flexibility as moving left and right, up and down, forward and backward. If that's the case, then you can revisit your own timeline. Under those conditions, you do not die, you are always dying. You are not born, you are always being born.
On the outside, Steins Gate may paint a dark and even dreary future about the laws of the universe. However, even if that's the case, the series never advocates for our characters to give up. As Okabe and Kurisu discuss the causation of Mayuri's death, they quickly rule out fatalism as if to suggest that the universe doesn't adhere in that way. Though, no matter what world line Okabe tries to enter, it seems as if a person close to him always ends up dying. Be it the laws of the universe or some outwardly force, some events just seem written to happen. But even so, our characters press forward, never giving up, determined to find a solution. Now, the reason why I concluded Okabe to have free will in the series is because in a deterministic universe, your actions are a result of the events that came before it. The future isn't already written down, but determined by the law of causality. If that's the case, then theoretically, if humanity had the power to accurately predict the speed and placement of an electron, then by extrapolation, it would be possible to know future events before it even happened, thus proving that free will is in fact a lie. However, because of the uncertainty principle, we will never truly know. While it's true that Okabe's actions in the series are a result of his own prowess, Okabe has free will in the sense that he's the only one who isn't tied down to a singular world line. He has access to multiple world lines. When he diverges into a different one, Okabe's actions aren't a result of just one world line, but all of them. This might be a bit difficult to get your head around, but extensively, the Okabe we follow doesn't exist as just one person. He collectively exists everywhere and in every world line. Kurisu even alludes to this at the end of the series. In the midst of consoling Okabe, Kurisu says something really interesting. She states that even if she were to die in the beta timeline, she would still continue to exist in others.
私は死んでない。ベータ世界線の私が死んでいたとしても、今ここにいる私が死ぬ保証はどこにもない。無数の世界線に別の私がいるかもしれない。その意志がつながって自分という存在があるのかもしれない。それって素敵だと思わない？あらゆる時、あらゆる場所に自分がいる。誰かを愛する強い気持ちが、何かを信じる強い感情が、何かを伝えたいという強い思いが時を超えつながって今の自分があるのだとしたら、それは素晴らしいこと。
What I love about this scene isn't just Kurisu and Okabe's uncompromising love for one another, but the fact that she alludes to something even bigger than herself. Through the way in which the world is defined and shaped in Steins Gate, Kurisu implies that her love would be so strong as to transcend time and space itself. If their world is truly in fact deterministic, then etched into the very fabric of their universe, Kurisu is destined to be with Okabe no matter what world line they're in. It's a powerful sentiment that adds an extra layer of depth within their characters as it ties in thematically with the nature of their universe. How, in the face of overwhelming odds and tasked with the impossible, our characters will persevere in the pursuit of hoping to find that one world line that can save them. That is the will of Steins Gate. People theorize that humans don't have free will, but yet there's an overabundant feeling that we do. What Steins Gate ultimately tells us is that it isn't important whether or not free will does or doesn't exist, but that you should live life to the fullest, not caring what the world has to say. That even if you're caught in an impossible situation, you should never give up, because if you continue to keep going and persevere against all odds, you can pass that 1% barrier and achieve the path you've always wanted. Steins Gate is beloved for many reasons. It has a compelling cast of characters whose relationships are essential in getting the audience invested, but I think how the series is structured and interwoven directly goes unnoticed when discussing the messages and ideas it explores. It's a complex web of connections with each world line influencing the next, so hopefully I've made you appreciate the show just that little bit more.
これがシュタインズゲートの選択だよ。